Morning.
Oh,
Morning.
From the
Someone
west
sent
of
it in.
Ireland. From the west of Ireland.
Oh,
oh wow.
morning.
Oh, wow.
That's nice. Hi, everyone.
Hello.
So, welcome. We'll get started. I am sorry if I'm having if I cut out. Bree, just keep going like that so I know that I'm doing okay.
Oh, yeah.
And it's
You always do.
oh, I'll
No,
yes. So
man with the OCD. Got nothing better to do.
okay. So listen, everybody, can you all go on
Oh,
mute?
probably to come
Just
back and, a lot of your stuff's gone. So,
everybody pop your phones on mute. Thank you. Thank you so much. So it's lovely to see you all. It is our sixth session. We're doing, oh, I'm still there. Yes, I'm still here. Sorry, I'm all jerky because I'm worried that I'm going to be, my internet's going to drop out. But thank you for all being here. I'm Natalie Isaacs, founder of 1 Million Women. This is our sixth session, and we can't wait. We're going to be talking all things solar tonight with our wonderful partner, Mamoon and Equity Solar. So thank you so much for all being part of this. I'd like to start by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land in which I am talking to you all from today, which is the Dharawal country. I say this every session. I live in this extraordinary part of the world, in between the Pacific Ocean and the escarpment, and it's a very special place. And I recognize and I truly appreciate the wisdom of First Nations peoples and that connection to the land and the oceans and the waterways, and know that they are living systems and that we must do everything we can to care for our earth. And that is what we are all doing. See you later. That's what we're all doing. So thank you. I'm going to start off really quickly by giving you an update of where we are at with Women Power. We are now nearly 3,000 participants, and that's really fantastic. We are currently pulling together our delegation that we're taking to Canberra in February to talk about our policy ask, which is about getting 1 million additional households electrified over the next 3 years, over the next term of government. And I think that it is an achievable and tangible thing that governments must support our households with. And to be honest, if we are going to electrify the 11 million households in this country by 2040, which is what we have to do, then to stay on track with that, we need to have 1 million extra households electrified over the next 3 years. And I know I said this at the last session as well. Thank you for everyone who has signed our policy ask. It's a really big piece of our work. And if you haven't signed it yet, we will send out the link, or Brie will put the link in the chat. And after this session, please sign our policy ask. The more women that we have behind us when we go to Canberra, when we have our meetings with politicians from across the political spectrum, this is a win-win. This is, we can get bipartisan, multi-partisan support for electrification of our homes. And it not only goes to climate action, but it goes to our hip pockets, it goes to our cost of living. So it's a big piece of our work. Thank you all for supporting that. We had our first community event a couple of weeks ago. We held it in Manly, and it was about it was about household electrification. It was a fabulous event. We had 55 Manly community at the event, and we had this great conversation about how we do it. So we are rolling out these small, intimate community events across New South Wales, across the country, over the course of next year. So please, if you're interested in helping us with the community event in your area, please put up your hand, let us know, and we can really help facilitate that next year. What else have we been doing? We yeah, this is the last of our sessions this year on electrification, and we've come a long way. I don't know what else. Bree, is there anything else I need to say about? Oh, I know. Our nuclear policy, which we also put out a couple of weeks ago. Thank you to everybody who did that. We had over 3,000 women give us their thoughts on what, how they feel about nuclear energy in this country. And of course, overwhelmingly, 95% of us said that we didn't want it and that it was derailing renewable energy. And over 2,000 of you gave us your stories about why we don't want nuclear energy and why we should even be talking about it when we have, renewable energy at our fingertips. And that's what we're talking about tonight. We're really proud to be partnering with Equity Solar. We're I think we put out a post this morning saying that there are now, when we started 1 million women, there were 7,000 households with solar, and now we are over 4 million in this country, and we are leading the world when it comes to rooftop solar. And I think, it is, of course we are, we can be the renewable superpower of the planet. So I'm not going to say anything more except thank you for being part of Women Power. We love these sessions. I'm going to now throw it over to Bree, and please say hello in the chat. We love knowing where you're from, and we love all the hellos and the love from you, our community. So over to Bree, and let's have this really good conversation. There's lots of questions. We really want to hear from you. So store up those questions so we can really talk to Mamoon about all things solar. Over to you, Bree and Mamoon.
Yeah, so I wanted to intro Mamoon and Equity Solar. For those of you on the chat, on the call who may not have heard of them or may not have even heard of, the concept of solar brokerage. Their main purpose, I guess, when Mamoon created the organization was to get everybody across solar to really completely access and have affordable, clean energy for everybody in Australia. There's a lot of questions, there's a lot of annoying processes when it comes to trying to do a whole range of electrification things. Rooftop solar is no different, and I feel like there's been a lot of different questions or even stories that people have shared with us that are frustrating stories about how they've tried to get solar and then they've come up with issues with installers or issues with their roof. And so the main reason why Equity Solar exists is to help you, give you free and fair advice, and to really demystify that process and make it a lot easier for everyone to get solar. So that's why we are really excited to have Mamoon on the call. And Mamoon is an incredible wealth of knowledge. He's the founder of Equity Solar and has a background in IT where he's worked firstly as an engineer, but also as a project manager, and has been advocating for affordable, clean energy for many, many years. So I'm very excited to invite Mamoon on to chat about the work that he does with Equity Solar, and also be here as this incredible resource that we can ask him as many questions as possible and really get a lot out of the session. So I'll throw over to you, Mamoon.
Oh, thank you, Bree and Nat, for that warm introduction. I will jump into my session. I'm just going to share my screen. So give me a second. So Bree, if you can confirm, you can see my presentation. Yes, is that up, Bree?
Yep, that looks
Okay.
great, Mamoon.
Okay, cool, thanks, Nat. Okay, so I want to start with a quiz. I want you to start thinking about carbon emissions. So the question is, a 6.6 kilowatt solar system prevents the emission of 196 tons of carbon over its lifetime. How many families would have to stop driving their car to prevent the same quantity of emissions in a year? There is a hint as for the answer on this screen, and you can take a screenshot of it if you want to look at it, and feel free to jump on Google and do a search on the average emission from an Australian family car per year. And once you find that number, you can divide 196 by that number to get the answer. Okay, so while you do that homework, I'm going to start my presentation. So just a little bit on the structure of the presentation tonight. So I'll start with the introduction. I'll talk a little bit about myself and what led me to Equitable Solar. I will also talk a little bit about climate change. I guess most of us are here because we are concerned about climate change and we want to do something about it. So it's always nice to revisit the purpose of what we're doing and why we're doing it. In the second half of the presentation, I'll talk a little bit about the renewable energy transition, where we are, and then I'll wrap up with talking about Integrity Solar Brokers. That's our brand name for the residential solar, and I'll talk a little bit about how we operate before we open up for questions. So this is where I talk a little bit about myself. So I am a 53-year-old dad of 2 teenage daughters from Sydney's inner west. I worked in IT as an engineer and project manager, spanning over a period of 28 years before pivoting to renewable energy earlier this year. My interest in climate change goes back probably around 20 years. But back in those days, I used to think that we just needed the right kind of leaders in politics to solve the problem. However, watching the train wreck of failures by governments all over the world while my daughters entered their teenage years, I realized that political leaders, regardless of their intentions or capacity, are not able to solve the problem. But they still have a role to play, but I think, I mean, let's face it, the fossil fuel companies have just too much money, power, and influence. More on that later. But I'm absolutely sure that if we care about the future of our loved ones, we have to take matters into our own hands. We, the people, have to lead by example. So why did I choose solar as my answer to doing my bit for climate change? Well, it was fairly straightforward. All I had to do is go onto Google and do a search about the emissions. And, it came up pretty quickly that electricity accounts for 28.3% of our emissions. And you can see second on that list under the pie chart, you've got stationary energy, which is also very closely linked to fossil fuel that is burned at the source. So we're talking about fossil fuel burned at the power station, which is contributing towards creating our electricity. So essentially, from a practical perspective, it's about 50% of our emissions are going towards producing electricity. So that's a big amount of electricity, and that adds to our personal carbon footprint as well. But whilst it has the biggest impact, or potentially it is the biggest impact we have personally on the planet, I feel that it is also one of the easiest to do something about, especially for those of us who own our own homes. Okay, the urgency of the climate crisis. I'm going to start with a quote from our very own Natalie Isaacs. I'm going to read this out. This critical decade is simultaneously a time for alarm and a time for great hope. We have to act like our own lives and the futures of everyone we love depend on it, because that's the truth. And that's what this book is about. So I'm sure you've all seen this book. We're talking about Natalie's book right here, right now. So to back that up, I've got a graph on the right-hand side, which shows that we are well on our way to reaching 1.5 in our own lifetime. As a matter of fact, many experts are saying that 1.5 is already gone. We can't do much about 1.5. But under current projections, we'll see the global temperature go beyond the maximum 2 degrees. during the lifetime of our kids, unless we do something about stemming the tide of fossil fuels. So let's talk about fossil fuels. The fossil fuel hegemony. So the term hegemony is something I wasn't very well informed of till I met Professor. And I soon realized that it was one of his favorite words, because he'd probably drop it about at least 5 to 10 times every lecture. But I'm going to use a story that he used to explain the meaning of that word in the term of fossil fuels. So here it goes. So two fish swimming side by side. One asks the other, "Hey, have you heard about the water quality issues?" The other one turns around and says, "What water?" So the point here is when something becomes so essential to your life, you don't even notice its existence or question it. So that's fossil fuel for us. We're surrounded by fossil fuel. Sometimes we don't even think about it. But to prove the point, even though we are making good progress with clean energy, fossil fuel use has reached global records. And you can see the graph here. There was a little bit of a dip during COVID, but it's bounced back again, and unfortunately it's at record highs today. And you will also see a chart I've put together here, which is a list of the 10 largest corporations by net revenue as of 2023. The sad news is 6 out of these 10 on this list are oil and gas and fossil fuel companies. So whilst we're making good progress with renewables and the transition is inevitable in my view, I think we're not going to see any new coal-fired power station, especially in the developed countries. The truth is that we are not transitioning quickly enough, and the global consumption of fossil fuel just keeps rising. So here's something else that backs it up. So if we're talking about what impact of rising consumption of fossil fuel has, the good people at the Mauna Loa Observatory in Hawaii, US, have been measuring atmospheric CO2 for more than 50 years. And over that time, it's going up and up and up and up and up. And it smashed through the 400 parts per million figure in 2013. Today, that figure is around 423 parts per million, which is again higher than what it was last year. So what does climate change look like for most of us living in the first world? I think most people on the call would probably agree that we're well past the stage of feeling sorry for vulnerable animals far away from home. Climate change is well and truly at our doorsteps and no longer about remote places a few of us will visit. So I've got some pictures here of climate change induced events. We've got the European heat wave from 2020, the Superstorm Sandy from US. This is a picture here from Lismore floods just 2 years ago. And of course, we all remember the 2019-2020 bushfire season that we all had. But to me, what scares me even more is that the much loved and cherished family holidays that we all enjoy will be bumpier and more expensive going forward because climate change is changing our atmosphere. So plane rides are a bit more bumpier bumpier than what it has been in the past. Okay, time to pivot to renewable energy transition. So obviously this is a solar session, so I'm going to speak mostly about solar energy, and I'm going to borrow some content from Seize the Sun report published by the Climate Council recently. I did a couple of media interviews for the Climate Council on this report as a case study, So I feel obliged to spread the message in this report. In terms of the key messages out of the report, it's unsurprising that there's been acknowledgement of the fantastic work we've all done. In Australia, with rooftop solar, we're the world leaders. 1 in 3 households in Australia have rooftop solar, and we're at 23 gigawatts capacity nationally. But the report does highlight that there is an overall capacity long-term to install another 103 gigawatts on top of the current 23 gigawatts rooftop solar we have. But this particular graph is actually about the capacity by 2030. We can more than double rooftop capacity to 49 gigawatts by 2030. So what we do in the next 6 years is super important. And I guess it's echoing the message from Natalie's book about taking action in this current decade, what we can do right here, right now. Now, the report is a fantastic report, but I don't think I've got enough time here to do it justice. But if anyone wants to read it in full, I'm happy to pass that on to anyone. Brianna, I assume you've got the contact details for people who joined the call. I will email you the full report to pass it on to those who are interested. So before we move on from this report, I really want to take time to talk about this slide. This is my favorite illustration from this report. And I love it because it's actually showing what the future can look like and a pathway to that future. So the future is here on the right-hand side. And on the left-hand side is what we currently have, which is more of a hybrid. We've got some renewables in the network, but more or less, we're still very heavily reliant on fossil fuel energy to get us through the evenings. Because the elephant in the room when we talk about renewable energy and the transition is the storage. And currently, we do not have enough storage. But if we fast forward to the future, the main difference between now and then is we've got a centralized system today where energy is produced somewhere far and then pumped to us through the network, through the grid. And in the future, we have a decentralized system where more of the energy is actually produced on site and stored on site and shared on site. We've got technology like virtual power plants. So not everyone will be able to create and store their own energy, but it can still be received from somewhere nearby rather than coming from a coal-fired power station. Another thing to note here is that, and I guess, when we listen to our politicians who are not pro-renewable energy, they always say, yeah, and what happens when the sun doesn't shine and the wind doesn't blow? Well, in my personal experience, I've had a battery for about a year. There are those days, but very few. I can probably count on my hand how many days I've actually had to pull energy from the grid. But let's say it's 15 days a year, and that still gives you 350 days of energy self-sufficiency. But for those 15 days in the year, we've got pumped hydro. So pumped hydro can then, in the future, be our solution to those times where there isn't enough renewable energy on the grid. Okay, talking about battery, I really need to mention the solar duck or the duck curve. So the term was coined in California. There must be something in the water there. The innovation just keeps coming. But as you can see, the reason it's called the solar duck or the duck curve is because the energy consumption curve looks very much like the shape of the duck. So the curve, the way it is, it's in the morning we've got, we get out, where we make our coffee and tea and breakfast, and we've got a high demand. Then the demand drops off, and then in the evening when people come home, start making their dinner, turn on the oven, dishwasher, all that, the energy spike goes up again. And what's been happening is over the years, this is getting more pronounced, possibly because maybe we're doing more electrification at home, Maybe there's population growth, maybe we're using more electricity, but whatever the reason, this is getting more pronounced over the years. And solar on its own can't solve that problem. And that is because you can see here in the middle of the screen, solar is most productive during the middle of the day when the demand on the grid is the lowest. So as you can see here, even the demand in the middle of the day on the grid is getting lower and lower, and that's because a lot of people actually have solar now already installed. So there is no big demand for energy from the grid in the middle of the day. There is a very simple solution for these batteries and home batteries, solar home batteries. And I've been writing to politicians about this for years, probably at least 4 years. I remember writing to Anthony Albanese before he became our Prime Minister. He's my local member in Grayndler. But I'm very glad that New South Wales government has finally done something about it. There is a rebate now on batteries, which makes the cost of acquiring the battery a lot cheaper. But there also is a rebate if you join a VPP, which is about $300 a year. So that's a reasonable amount of money to be getting year on year. I think that they're allowing for about 3 years. So that's good news. But I know some of you are probably thinking, oh, batteries are expensive. I mean, that's okay. I mean, if you can't go to batteries now, I mean, my advice would be, if you haven't got solar, but you're thinking about solar, bundle. There's some really good deals if you bundle solar and batteries together. If you can't do it, okay, fine. Just get the solar now and you can get batteries later. Or if you already have solar and thinking about batteries, this is a good time to get batteries, because not will you be helping yourself, you'll be helping the grid, and you'll be helping to keep costs down on the grid for others in the long term. So batteries are a very good idea. Okay, a little bit about Integrity Solar Brokers. This is, as I said, is a brand name for residential solar, and our approach and how we operate. So, I might sound a bit contradictory here if I tell you that choosing a solar is actually, installing solar can be quite complicated. I mean, I still think it's very easy. It's just, there's a lot of jargon, there's a lot of information you've got to research and find out what's right for you. But once you've done that work, it's fairly simple. It's, it's almost like out of mind, out of sight. Once you install it, it just on your roof does what it needs to do. And you enjoy the benefit for years. But because there is so many jargons, there's so much complexity, so much information, a lot of people don't have the time. Maybe they're confused by all the different advice they get from different installers. And this is why we exist. This is why I set up Equity Solar and Integrity Solar Brokers, to be your trusted advisor who can help make sense of all the jargon and help you select a solution suited for your financial situation and your energy needs. And essentially, we operate like a mortgage broker. You don't have to go and contact all the installers directly. You can come to us, and we can find out what's out there in the market for you. So what we don't do, we don't sell products. We only work with, we work with installers, but we only work with vetted installers that we fully trust, that we have a working relationship with. And vice versa. They also know that if they don't do the right thing by us, they don't get business from us. So it's a relationship that works really well. But our service to you, to consumers, is it's free. It's just an advisory service. There is no cost and there is no obligation. You don't even have to choose one of our installers. If you've got 5 quotes and you're confused, you can come to us. We'll advise you. We'll help you through that process. If you've got any questions, you can ask us. You don't have to go with us. We are just here to help people. The main purpose of the company is to enable more people to get solar. Okay, what else can I say? So we are essentially a one-stop shop for pre and post-installation and inquiries and support. So unlike the other model that some of you might have seen, if you go onto Google and do a search, you enter your details, They promise you 3 quotes, which means they pass it on to 3 different installers, and you start getting calls and emails from all of them. We actually don't pass on your information to anyone. We will only pass on your information if you choose to go with the installer on our panel, because they will need that information to come and do the installation for you. But so that's another way we can help you, is by protecting your personal information and your privacy. But we do guide you through all the payment options as well, whether you choose to pay upfront or utilize a pay-as-you-save option. We're here to help you, guide you through the process. Pay as you save. It's a term I'm not sure if you're familiar with. I'm hearing it more and more, so I guess it's becoming more part of our lingo. But finance seems to be a dirty word in the industry. But I think people understand there are good debts and bad debts. And for most people living in Australia, mortgage is a good debt. And I think the good people are Bright, and I think Bright is known to the network. I'm pretty sure that I think I've seen them on your website. So they've already got an established relationship with 1 million women. I think charge is actually lower than taking that money out of your mortgage to install rooftop solar. So they're a fantastic company. They're doing really good work. Now, with our model, our installers already have an established relationship with Bright, so it's not that you have to go to Bright and set up an account separately. It all happens seamlessly when you go through your installation process, if you choose to go the finance option. So a little bit more about pay as you save. What does it really mean? So here you can see this is your old electricity bill on the left of the graph, and I guess once you install rooftop solar, you expect to see a 40 after the installation period is the installments for your finance is done. Is the time, the lifespan of your equipment, which can be as long as 20 years. So if you can pay your electricity bill, you can afford to pay no upfront. Make the decision today. There are other priorities that will come up. You might want to go on a holiday, but you can go on a holiday and install solar. You can have both. You don't have to do one or the other, because pay as you save is a very good option at the end of the day. Okay, look, I think I've come to the end of my presentation. If you are ready to start your solar journey, obviously we can look that up at integratedsolarbrokers.com.au/1MW. You can book a solar assessment now, and it's again totally obligation-free advice. Okay, I think we're ready for questions, because I think a lot of what I spoke about today, being in the climate space, you probably knew it might have been useful for you to get a bit of a refresher on that. But really, the value is being able to ask questions specific to your current situation. So I'd love to hear your questions. By the way, before we go to questions, did anyone get the answer to the quiz?
Come on, tell us, Mamun.
Okay, the answer is C, 84. So imagine if someone gave you a homework that, okay, you've got to save 96 tons of carbon. You could spend 3 to 4 hours doing your research, talking to a broker like myself, and getting it done. Or you can run around, convince 84 families to stop using their car for a whole year. I think I know which one I would choose.
Yeah.
Right. We did have a couple of questions in the chat. Elizabeth said, do you quote in every state?
We do. We're strongest in New South Wales, but we do have installation partners in Queensland and also in Victoria. So those are the ones that we can help you with.
And then Vanessa, sorry, I jumped in there, Bree. Vanessa says, is it worth to pay for more premium tier 1 panels or black solar panels?
Look, it does depend on your situation. I have to say, look, personal story, I installed 2 systems because I love it so much. I installed the first one, a 7.5 kilowatt system, about 5 years ago. And because I was new back then, I went for the more expensive option because I wanted it to last long. I didn't want any issues. So there's definitely value in doing that. But I am also seeing that even the lower cost equipment these days come with 10-year warranty, which was unheard of 5 years ago. They're getting better and better. Sure, I would say, I guess, the panels have 25-year warranty, and I think even though you can buy more expensive panels, they more or less do the same thing. The inverters, which is the equipment that converts the DC power to usable AC in your house, that's the equipment where you are better off spending a bit more, because that often, if it's cheaper, if it's not installed correctly, if it is exposed to the sun and rain and all that, it will die, over 5 years. And this is why you need to look very closely at the warranty for your inverter, and you're better off spending a bit more money on the inverter and going with the reputable brand.
Alison, did you want to ask your question?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I love questions. I hope we have many.
Okay,
Alison, unmute.
Oh, sorry. Was a question for Alison? Was it? Sorry.
She can't unmute. Okay. Do you want me to
Oh,
read?
hang on.
no,
I
there
have.
she is. There she
I have.
is.
Sorry.
Hey, Alison.
Hello. I've just. The Energy Minister has announced that there's going to be bi-directional vehicle chargers available very soon in Australia. And we've got solar but no battery. If we're thinking of buying an e-vehicle within the next 2 years, are we better off? Is it a good decision to wait and get a bi-directional charger battery, or should we go with a home battery? Like what is, like, cost-wise, what's better?
Look, it's a great question. But there's no simple answer, so I'll try and do my best. So with the incentive you have with batteries, you can get a 13 kilowatt battery for the price I paid for a 10 kilowatt a year ago. Having said that, I have absolutely no regret. I already saved about close to $2,000 in the 1 year I've had the battery. So my rebate that I would have got, I've already got it back in terms of savings. So I think it's good incentive there. Now, regarding your bi-directional, yeah, it's great that we've actually got a standard that's ratified. The industry is a little bit behind, so it's hard to find ready to, like, off-the-shelf products that'll just plug in. So that will take a bit of time. We're a bit behind, but often it happens the other way, where the standards come later and the equipment come in first. So in this instance, it's actually really good that the government's on the front foot. However, today I think there's about $10,000 cost to put in one of those bi-directional charging thing. So there is fair bit of work involved. Now, if you've got an EV, did you say, Alison? You already have an EV? Are you thinking about it? Okay. I would say it's good to get the battery today, because firstly, you're going to help the solar duct that I spoke about before. You will reduce your demand on the grid, and you'll save money for it, right? Your evening consumption is going to come out of your battery. The other thing that's going to happen is, once you've got an EV, unless you are one of those people who don't have to take the car to work and it always sits in your garage, it can charge directly from the panels if you've got off-street parking. But if you're taking your car to work when your energy is most productive, your solar is most productive, and you want to charge it at night, which makes a lot of sense, it should charge while you're sleeping, you need a battery, right? If you have a battery, and then you can charge it. And like the size of a battery in the car is probably going to be about 8 to 10 times bigger than your home battery, but that's fine. You can top it up a little bit every night. You don't have to charge the whole thing in one go. So there's the other benefit of getting that home battery. But look, in the long run, bi-directional charge is good. You probably have to spend another $10,000 when it's available. If you want to sell the energy back into the grid, what price you're going to get, we don't know yet. This is still to be determined. Some of the energy companies are coming up with special offers for charging EVs. I haven't seen anything on discharging EVs, so there might be special deals on those as well. But I mean, you can probably make that business decision at that time, 2 years down the track. Okay, do I spend the $10,000 on the bi-directional? Will I make it back? Because there's some really good offers now from retailers wanting my energy out of my car. So I think you can make the decision later, but I still think that it is a good idea to buy a battery now for your immediate use. Good question. Thank you, Alison, for that question.
And then you want to go, Bree?
I was just going to read Robin's question that said, has manufacturers solved the lithium solar battery catching fire problem?
Yeah, look, I think it's very rare. It was LG was the only one that I know of have that issues, and they recalled. None of the other manufacturers have had that issue. So the lithium battery is catching fire is more of an issue with those e-scooters, as they're very prevalent. But apart from LG, who have recalled all their products, home batteries, none of the other manufacturers have had it. So it's not really as big an issue.
And then Janet saying, okay, her first message was, I work from home as a physio and have a 5.3 kilowatt solar system and a Tesla battery, and joined a virtual power plant scheme. I paid no electricity after the winter. And then Janet, do you want me to read? Janet, you can jump on and ask. I can see you there. Do you want to jump on and ask the question? Okay, I'll ask it. To clarify my unclear message, with the incentive from the virtual PP of $500 per year and the $300 from the government and my panels and the battery, I did not pay for any. Oh, it's
all right, so that's a good news story. Yes, fantastic.
Story.
That is my story as well. I mean, I've been very happy since I've installed my battery last year. It's almost paid. I paid $10,000 for it. I've almost made $2,000 back. So 5 year is still possible, provided you're prepared to sell some of it back into the grid, right? From self-consumption, batteries still doesn't fit into that 4 to 5 years payback, because you still have to pay something for accessing the grid, the network charges and so forth, right? But if you're prepared to sell some of it into the joiner VPP and sell some of it back, you can still make that money back in 5 years.
Yeah, that's good, Janet.
Or less.
Can we use that story? Because we love good news stories. Mamoon, I just wanted to ask you, because of the work that you do, which is to assist people understand the quotes that they're getting, or to make sure that they're getting the best deal possible, because it can get really confusing when we've moved down to Wollongong and we've got solar panels, which is sensational. But we used to live in Newport, and for pretty much we were there for 30 years, and most of the time we were getting told, "No, you can't have solar panels. There's too many trees," and we held off, and then all of a sudden somebody came along and said, "That's crazy. You can put solar panels here and at this," and we did it, and it was fantastic. And so we wasted all those years of being told we can't have solar. And then when we did get the solar, in fact, we did use Bright, which was fantastic, but there was a lot of discrepancy between the quotes we got. So we just had to kind of figure it out. So that's what we'd use you for, is to help us figure it all out.
Yeah,
it does
absolutely. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
that's what we're here for. And look, I've got a personal story very similar to yours. I first looked at installing rooftop solar in 2015, and I even paid the deposit. The installer turned up and go, "Oh, we can't do solar here." I mean, what he meant was I wasn't paid enough to do this complicated installation, right? So he walked away, and I didn't get solar till 2020, and I moved to a different house by then. But I would have been very happy to pay the extra installation cost to do it if someone explained that to me clearly. And also, the other aspect of it is the technology is getting better, right? So now even as a broker, I've got access to software which does such high quality imagery of your rooftop from my desk. I don't have to go anywhere. And what I do is use that to do the initial assessment, and then I'll pass it on to an installer once we're ready to install, right? And they do a second level of check. So because the technology is improving, and also the technology in terms of the solar technology, we've got microinverters, we've got things that are called optimizers. So all these things can counter the shading and other issues that people in the past go, "Oh, no, I can't do it." But sometimes, you just have to, go against the popular, wisdom and try it out for yourself. And that's what I've done. My panels are actually not north facing; they're actually south facing. Now, the only disadvantage of that is in winter, I get a little less yield. But in summer, I'm still producing like 60 kilowatt hour a day. It's like 3 times more than I can use. So it's still very good. I don't need to produce anymore. Sure, it's not as good as north facing, but it produces 3 times more than what I need. So it's all possible, and this is what we're here for.
Yeah.
Colleen asked if you have any advice on similar companies to yours that operate in WA, or if you have any contacts in WA at all.
I don't have in WA at this point in time, but I can look it up. Let me look up my network, and if you can pop me the contact details, Bree, I'll come back to you.
And then Janet shared a few more stories. Sounds like you have a great situation, Janet. Janet has many inverters which improve the situation with the chimney and the tree shadows, and it really works, which is good to hear. And then we also have Vanessa, who asks, "Do you have a smart meter for solar? Or do you have to have a smart meter for solar?"
Yes and no. I would go with the yes first, because without a smart meter, you are losing the benefit of getting your feed-in tariff. So that's, even if you don't have a smart meter, your solar will work. But any of the excess you're feeding back in the grid, you're not going to get the feed-in tariff for it. Not that it's very much this says, it's still pretty small, but what it also allows you to do is do trading, do virtual, all the other fancy new improvements and innovations that we've had all rely on the smart meter. So it is a good idea to get the smart meter if you're going down the solar path.
Yes. Some great questions. In fact, Helen, our friend in West Island, has to go because it's starting to snow. But I think she's already gone, but she was saying.
I hope she doesn't ask me a question about snow on solar panels, but I would have absolutely no idea.
No, she just said she has solar panels in the dull grey west of Ireland, and she sells back
There you go.
anything she does not use, but generally it heats her water. So, oh, she's still on. I can still see her on. Anyway, Helen, thank you very much for sharing that with us. And yeah, while we get ready to have a nice hot summer, you're getting ready to shovel that snow. Yes.
Could I ask one more question, Nat?
Yes, go for it. I know, yes, we are running out of time, but so throw in your last questions. Yes, go, Alison.
We've had solar for about 6 years, and we believe that if we got new panels, we would get a lot more out of our solar. And so are you the right person to contact to come out and sort of, I guess you could say, review our solar, like whether it's worth getting a battery, whether we should get new panels, whether our overshadowing and our shading from our neighbours' trees can be solved through, I think you mentioned inverters. So is solar, sorry, I've forgotten the company.
Equity Solar.
Equity Solar, are you the right person to call?
Yeah,
with someone to assess that?
Absolutely. We can do most of that remotely. So very, very happy to help you with it. But look, just going back to your previous question. So what is happening today is a lot of people already have solar. On the wholesale market, there is too much solar in the middle of the day. Remember the solar duck. You can buy solar, if you're with Amber, you can buy solar at -9 cents in the middle of the day. So what, in your situation, I would tend to go install a battery. You can get solar for free in the middle of the day. Don't need to make a bigger solar. If you've got a battery, then you can actually top that battery up with very cheap solar in the middle of the day.
So I don't need to change the panels to more modern ones that get more solar. I don't know what the word is.
This is going to be totally opposite to what most installers will tell you. They'll say, oh, your system isn't big enough for a battery. You know, what I will tell you is, well, you don't need it because you can buy solar at for 2 cents.
Right.
So,
okay.
You can buy it so cheap in the middle of the day. If you've got a battery, then you can fill it up with that really cheap solar in the middle of the day from the grid. Okay. So I think, and that does a better service in terms of solving climate change, solving the energy transition. Economically, you're going to be better off as well. So I think that's a better solution for you.
Thank you so much, Mama. Thank you.
Yeah, and we'll wrap up soon, but Carolyn wanted to definitely share her good news story about her solar over there. Is that you? Are you actually at the beach? Do you want to just go off mute?
Yes. No, I'm not. I just have this background for my professional work, and I jumped on. I've actually been on another webinar through the Australian Institute, just if anyone wants to follow research of a really high standard Australian Institute Climate Council. So yeah, I flick from all sorts of amazing forums like you guys here as well. So I'm glad I caught the tail end. But yeah, there's such misinformation about, solar and batteries. And sorry, I wasn't here to listen to, what's been said so far, because I'm sure it was gold. But I've had now for 2 years. It's Plico. I know that. I think they're in Victoria. They're in WA. Look, I looked into the whole background of it because it was all very new. I'm very satisfied. The service is amazing. Basically, they came out. What I do is I pay $44 a week for having a battery and solar panels on my house. And I pay that. It is subject to CPI. So it has increased from the $38 originally 2 years ago. but that covers all of my electricity that I use. Now, I still need to pay a connection grid to the electrical people here to join the grid, because I also earn money from selling it back. So I need to be on that grid. I also get paid extra money from the grid people, because what they do is the batteries that everyone with Plico has, they draw down on our batteries in those time in summer where it's still 40 degrees at 6 o'clock at night, and everyone's pumping on their air conditioners. And they actually use my battery power, but I get compensated for that hugely for using my power that's been generated through the sun. Because as been mentioned here, there's a lot of power that during the day gets overused and goes back into the system. But then in the evening, of course, there's that drawdown as well. What I did a year ago is I bought an electric car as well. I didn't want to buy a Tesla because it was 80 grand and I'm not a big car person, but I bought a $37,000 Aura, it is. Fantastic little car. And I charge it off my panels during the day. So I'm still throughout, even now, there's a couple of months, I'd probably say over the year, where I don't get enough power to do it all, but I charge my car through the day. I unplug my car when the sun's gone down. By that stage, I've still got a full battery that gets me through the night. And throughout the day, I'm using all the electricity from the sun, and I'm also feeding it back to the grid, which I'm getting paid for. So for $44 a week, I'm running my car with no petrol. The whole car package as well for electric is that I only have to have it serviced once a year for $99. This is all out there. People don't realise that it's actually there. So I've got no fuel costs. I've got $99 service for my car with all the backup with, roadside assistance and everything. I run my house off the electric panels. I have the battery that supplies all my power through the night, and all of this is for $44 a week. But yeah, and having said that, with all the subsidies, well, I'm actually living what is possible, but people just don't realise it.
I absolutely agree. Yeah.
And with the electricity, sorry, I realise you have to wrap up. That's why I'm rattling off here. With the electricity grant that come through from the federal government, and we had a state one in WA, that covers my $44 per week for the year. So I'm literally free.
That's
my car, that's my house. And it's all doable. It's all easy. You just need to look into it. And yeah, I guess the big thing for a lot of people is that upfront $10,000 or whatever. With Plico, it's almost like a lease where, you own it. But anything that goes wrong in that time as well, they're responsible for fixing. So for me, that was a win-win. And it's just that ongoing payment off that time. And so I was extremely happy with the not having to pay the big bit out at the front and getting all the benefits along the way. So anyway,
thank you.
Sorry for jumping in. I'm not the be all and end all, but I just wanted to share that because a lot of people are just not aware that it's possible.
Yeah. No, thank you, Carolyn. That's really, really a beautiful story to end off on. And Mamoon, thank you, everybody. Mamoon, thank you so much for the work that you're doing to help us all. We are going to send the link out to everybody. Any question or anything you want to know, please follow the link to talk to Mamoon, and he will help you with any of your solar questions. We are doing a big audacious campaign with Mamoon. We are wanting to get a megawatt of solar installed over the next year. That's right, isn't it, Mamoon? I got that right.
Yes, absolutely.
It all goes towards us wanting to have 1 million households electrified over the next term of government. This is all part of that. Please, if you have been wanting to get solar or batteries or any questions, now's the time. So don't hesitate to get hold of Mamoon and go from there as to get you on your journey or to get additional panels or anything else to get you on your way. Okay, Bree, over to you. If there's anything I missed.
I think that's kind of everything, but yeah, I guess 100 or a megawatt of solar is roughly about 100 households. So it's an achievable goal to have. And I know that we have a really engaged audience who really wants to electrify their homes. So yeah, looking forward to everyone getting the help that they need and lowering their electricity bills. And yeah, that's what we're all here to save emissions and save our beautiful planet. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
But yeah, we'll be emailing you the recording and also any resources that Mamon has shared or wants to share with the audience as well. So yeah, I think that's everything.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you, everyone, staying on till after 8. And we will see you. We won't do any more Zoom events this year, but we will be in touch because we've got lots and lots and lots happening in the new year with our delegation, with training, with partners like Mamon, with our community events. So thank you. Thank you, everyone. And we will talk to you soon. Bye.
Thanks, Nat. Thanks, Bree. Thanks, everyone. Have a good evening.
Thanks, Mamon. Thank you.
Thanks for having me. Cheers.
Bye, everyone. Goodbye. Bye, Janet. Bye, Elizabeth. Bye, everyone.
Wait, how do I
We get out. Bye. How does it
hold on, I'll just do this.
Okay, high five, high five.